right? Instead of my name, comma, I want to do my name plus last name. Let's see what happens in here now. Okay. Do you see that there is no space included? However, earlier there was a space. And the difference is that when you do my name plus last name, like we were doing on the JavaScript, right? It just combines two variables together. But if you include a comma, it automatically puts a space in between them. You see, it automatically. So that's the difference between using plus and then the comma sign. Now, a little bit later, when we were talking about the integers, input integers, there will be a difference on when to use the comma and when to use the plus sign. But we'll get back, we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, let's see. Okay, now let's try to do uh, let's try to enter some numbers. Let's see. Let's just do x equal to 2 and then y. Actually, let's ask the user to input. X equal to input, then y equal to input, enter, y. That has to be. Now, when I enter a number here and a number here, I want to get the addition of those two numbers. So let me just do x plus y. 2, 3. And again, it's typing 23. And from the previous session, we know why it's typing 23. It's because it's just combining two values that were entered. And the question is, hey, we entered 2 and 3. Those are numbers. How come they are, those values are not entered as an integer or not entered as a number or it's entered as a string, right? Whenever we ask the user to input something, whenever we prompt the user to input something, it's automatically defaulted to a string. A string is a data type that's equivalent to text. Now, to make the input of the user into an integer, we need to type it as an int. Let's try this, just like we did in a JavaScript, but a little bit different. Let's try and run this. Let's see if we get any errors. 2, 3, okay, 5. Now, the way we convert the strings into an integer, integer is equivalent to a number, is by typing the int. So let me just do int converts the string to integer. The same way, there is another function called str that converts the integer to string. So these int and string functions, right, they are built into Python. We don't have to implement those. They are taken care of in the background. Just like this function called input that we're asking the user to input something, right? This is some kind of function that's already implemented in the Python language. So all we need to do is just utilize it correctly. We don't have to build any functionality for the specific input function. It's already built in the backend. Okay, now let's ignore this, right? And let's say instead of converting the inputs into integer, let's just basically convert a simple string to an integer. So let's say x2 equal to 2. right? Y2 equal to 3, right? So these are, do you see these two, I forgot what's the name, quotes, double quotes, yeah, quotation marks. So these quotation mark refers to as a string. So whatever you put inside the quotation mark, it means that it's a string for sure. Now, if I don't put it inside the quotation mark, it automatically becomes a number, right? However, if I just, instead of putting a number, if I just put some text, right? This is going to give you an error because text, whatever text you're trying to type, it always needs to be surrounded in quotation marks. So when you want to type without the quotation marks, it's only applicable for the numbers that you're typing. So I just want to make that clear. So let's just type a string of 2 and a string of 5. And then let's try and print x2 plus y2. And let me just delete this. So let me just comment them out, and I can explain what the commenting out does shortly. So x2 is 2 and then y2 is 5. When I added those two together, it added the values, meaning text values, right? Now, if I do without the quotation marks, that means these are integers, right? And we should expect to get 7, right? So now let's put them back into a string, and then we still wanted to display, 7, right? In that case, we'll just do int and convert this. Seven. So what we're doing is, although this is a string, we're converting to an integer and storing it in the x2 variable name. Okay, so one thing is, if you pay attention, when I ran this, it only executed these 3 lines, right? And but although I have these stuff too in here, hashtags in Python mean that I'm just commenting stuff out. And what commenting stuff out means is that the program, I mean, you can still type it in here, but when you run the program will ignore these stuff that have the hashtag because they are a comment, not an actual program. So that's why when I commented out these 2 lines, it did not, ask me to enter X or Y because they're just getting ignored. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And I hope that's clear. Let me give a minute or two to get adjusted to this editor and just try and run a few stuff and make sure that you're not doing any syntax errors. Otherwise, it will just bark at you. For example, let me just forget one of the closing parentheses and run it. See, it gives me an error. Hey, invalid syntax, and it's pointing me to where it's invalid syntax, although it's, I think, misleading me. It says, hey, you have an invalid syntax in Y2, right? Although I have everything correctly. And I think it's pointing to there because I did not finish my statement in here, which means I have to finish it off with the closing parenthesis. So always pay attention. If you have an opening parenthesis, you have to have a closing parenthesis. And the same thing with the quotation marks. If you have the starting quotation mark, you have to have the closing quotation mark too. Yeah, I'll give you guys a minute. Okay, I got a comment from Smita that are we going to have a break? I that's a good question. Um, Aldrich, can we give a break, 5 minute break? Because I know a lot of them were sitting since the beginning of the session. Maybe he's away. Okay, let's do this. Whoever wants to have a break, let's give you guys 5 minute break so you can go drink your water and do stuff. And let's be back at 109. Does that sound good? Okay, I think we can resume. Uh, okay, let's, now that we know how to do the variables and printing and inputting values, let's go a little bit further. Okay, so we let's say we want to make code. We want to write a code that that checks if the number one is less than number two, or they're equal, right? So let's declare a variable called first number, and then make it equal to 2, and then second number, make it equal to 4, right? Um, and I want to compare them. So the way we do comparisons in Python is using if-else statements. So let's first check if the numbers are equal or not, right? So we'll do if, and then inside the parentheses, we'll check the condition. So what are we checking? We're checking if the first number and the second number are equal or not, right? So we'll do first number equal second number. Now pay attention to the equal sign. The difference between equal, the single equal, and then the double equal sign is that single equal sign just assigns a certain value to a variable. So it makes it equal to that thing, right? But in here, double equal sign, it's actually checking if two numbers are equal to each other. So this, let me put this in here. So the first number equal second number, this will return a Boolean value. Okay, and what Boolean value is, it's either true or false. Okay, so so in here, we're checking first number equal second number. It's doing a check if these two numbers are equal or not, right? So this one will return a Boolean value, either true or false. So then we know that our statement for the if statement, right? What should come in the between of two parentheses is some kind of Boolean value. It's either true or false. Okay, so the what the if statement, the inside of it is expecting is it's expecting a parameter. So whatever is inside the parentheses is called a parameter. So it's expecting a Boolean value parameter. It's either true or false. Now we could do true, just type true or false, but we actually need to check some condition, right? So let's say first number equal second number here, right? What do you think it's going, what is the value of this specific, let me do result. Oh, this for a second. Okay, so I created a variable called result, and then I'm assigning it a value. Let me just make it in a parenthesis so it's visible better. First number equal second number. Now, do you remember when I said equal, that means that it's comparing two numbers and then it's returning if it is true or false, right? So now we have 2 and then 4, right? Is 2 and 4 are equal? No, right? Which means that this result, let's just print the result and see what we'll get. So if you see the result, right? This one, we're assigning it as an expression, and the expression is checking if those two numbers are equal or not. So because they are not equal, this expression is getting false. It's returning a false value. So that's why when we print the result, it's saying false, meaning they're not equal, right? Now, but what we actually want to do is we want to include them in an if else statement. So what if else statement does is when you say if this is true, go with the plan B. I mean, sorry, plan A. But if it's not true or if it's false, go with a plan B. So that's the logic of it. So let's just do that. If first number equal second number, and we'll print, and let's just print the simple text. They are equal. Okay, and then let's do else. They are not equal. So do you see the if statement? The if statement always gets a parameter, but else statement does not get anything. That's the syntax of it in all the languages. If statement is checking something. So if this is true, which it's not true, right? Which means that if it's not true, it's going to completely ignore whatever is inside the if statement. So because this is false, the print statement is not getting executed, right? So, and also because this is false, instead of executing the if, it's going to the else statement. That's why it's executing the this print statement. Now, one thing about Python, be careful, is that indentation, which means this empty spaces, is very important. For example, if you have an if statement, right, like we were doing in a JavaScript or yeah, so in JavaScript, we were doing, for example, the open curly brackets, right? And then we were doing some else. So if I remove these indentations from the JavaScript, JavaScript is not going to complain about it. It's fine for it. Like it's going to work fine. But the thing about Python is that if I remove this indentation, it's going to give me an error saying that even the first print statement, right, expected an indented block, which means that in the Python and this JavaScript, we were using curly brackets, right? But in Python, instead of curly brackets, we use a colon like this. So just think of this colon as an equivalent to the curly brackets. So because we are using just colon, the indentation is important. And what comes and how you figure out if something needs to be with the indentation or no is, let's say if something is true, this is a plan A, right? Let's just say plan A. Else, and then this is a plan B. So when you have the colon, when I enter it, it automatically indents it for me. But what I want to do is, let's say I have this colon in here, it's printing plan A, and then I have this else statement print plan B. Let me print another print line in here. Save finish the code. Okay, pay attention. I have this print statement with the indentation. What this means is that these two, because they are indented, they belong to this else statement. So if I run this, do you see? Because my first number and second number is not equal to each other, it's skipping this plan A, right? And it's coming to this else statement, which means it's printing the plan B and then finish the work. Let's just do they are not equal to make it simple. Okay. So, but the thing is that instead of printing this line, finish the code, right, inside the else statement, I could remove the indentation. And what this will do is that this print statement, the last one, does not belong to nor else, neither else, nor if, which means after this both statements are completely done getting executed, then this print statement will be printed. So that's why the indentation is very important. Now let's do run. And then you see they're saying they're not equal and it's still printing the same thing, finish the code, right? Now let me change this equal to not equal. Okay, so what not equal does is it's checking if the first number is not equal to second number. So let's do this now. You see this line? Now this will return also a Boolean value, right? True or false. But what do you think will be the value of it? Like, is it going to be a true or false? It's definitely going to be true, right? So this one, when we did the first second number, this was false because it's checking if two numbers are equal or not. And the second one is checking if they're not equal. So this will return a true value, which means that this print statement will get executed and this will get ignored. Let's run that. Oh, actually, it should be not equal because we changed the logic. If first number is not equal to second number, then print they're not equal. Else, print they're equal, right? So again, this finish the code, the last print statement is getting executed because it's outside of both if else statements, right? Now, what if I put this inside the else statement? Do you see the finish the code line is not printing? Because when we check the first number is not equal to second number, this statement is true, right? Which means that if it will execute only this line of code and it will ignore the else. If we want this print statement to still print after everything, right, we should remove the indentation. So now it's typing this and then it's ignoring this and then it's printing this. So this is a way to check, conditions in Python. So and a quick key is do you see this equal, and not equal? These are called operators, which means that they will return always a Boolean value. And there are operators, other operators such as less, or operators such as greater, and then an operator that says less than or equal to. It's the basic math, basically. Or equal to, and then there are operators such as and okay, so these are the different types of operators. Let's just use one of them, right? And edit our if statement. Let's check if our first number is less than second number. If first number is less than second number, we can just print, first number, the actual value instead of the text, first number, and then type in is less second number. And then we can add another statement. Let's just remove the else. We can expand our if else statement. So we're doing first number less than second number. If it is true, right? if it will come to this print statement. Do enter. If we want to check for another condition, so you remember we were doing else, right? And else does not accept any parameters. It does not check any condition, right? It will just enter if everything else fails, it will enter to the else statement. Now, what if we want to check for another condition, right? Then we'll type a keyword called elif, and then you can type the parameters. Let's just do now first number greater than second number. To print first number is 10. Okay, so here we're checking for another condition. If first number is greater, here we check less, here we check greater. And if both of them are failing, if both of the statements are false, right, it will enter to else statement. Let's just say print and something else. Okay, let's try and run this, see what's the error. Oh, sorry, output. So 2 is less than 4. It printed this one, which means that this condition statement was true. And this one was false. That's because the first number is not greater than second number. It's actually less. So that's why it completely ignored this and this, because this statement was executed. Okay. Oh, since we're hard coding, let's make like a small, what do you call, small program that will check if the inputted numbers are less than or greater. We can check that. So what it means that instead of hard coding the 2 and 4, we can ask the user to input the number, right? So let's do input, enter first number. And then enter second number. And we need to include, we need to convert this to an integer, because if you remember from before, this will get entered in a string format. We have to convert them into an integer. And then we're comparing, okay. Enter first number 2, 3. 2 is less than 3. Let's just do 5, 2. 5 is greater than 2. So it doesn't, okay, I hope that makes sense. So what is it that I wanted to share? Okay, so now that we finished, let me give you guys a minute to see if you guys can make it work on your end, and then we can move on to a task where we can create like a simple calculator thing with just using this idea. I'll just give you 2 minutes. Okay, so now before we dive into the math section, I mean the calculator section, I will give you guys 2 minutes since we learned how to do the input and print stuff, right? I have this challenge task that says, okay, write a code that prints your name, last name, and the city you're from. But pay attention, please write that using variables. And then after 2 minutes, we can just real quick run through the solution of that. But yeah, see if you can try and implement on your own, writing the code that prints your name, last name, and the city that you're from, and by using the variables. Okay, let's implement that on our end. I can just delete this stuff. Okay. Okay. So okay, let's start with the first name. First name equal to input. What is your name? Input. Is city. Where are you from? And then we'll print first name, but first just say your name is first name. I can explain the syntax later. Last name is let's run this. I hope I didn't make any syntax errors. What is your name? Uh, your name is the name, your last name is Nori, you're from whatever the city is. So this was supposed to be the solution. Okay, now let's move a bit move towards the calculating the numbers. That's where we'll utilize the if statement the most. Now, so the way the calculator works is you enter the numbers and then you enter the operation, either plus or minus or division, right? You tell the calculator to, which operation to do. And the same thing in the Python, you have to tell the Python compiler, right, what numbers you want to use and what operation you want to use. So let's say the first number is x equal to, we'll ask the user to input enter. Right, and then let's make sure that to convert this to integer because we're working with numbers. And y, the same thing for the y. Okay. Now the next part is we need to ask the user what is the operation that they want to do. Is it an addition? Is it a subtraction? Or division or multiplication? So let's do that. Let's create a variable first that's called operation. You can name it anything you want. Operation equal to input, and I have this input written. I don't need to spend time writing it. I can explain what I'm doing inside that. Okay, so I'm saying here first we're entering two numbers, right? And then the next thing, the program is asking me to input a certain operation. Now, pay attention to what I have inside the parenthesis. I'm saying press, right? And then some of you might already know, but this \n, what it does, it prints a new line. So what it means is that this press will be printed, and then there's a new line, and then one colon addition will be printed, and then there's a new line. So I can show you real quick once I run the code, how it looks like. Now this operation will prompt the user to enter 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? Depending on what is it that they want to do. So let's do this, and then now comes the comparison part, right? So we have to compare the operation. So we'll do if operation equal to 1. And why am I doing 1? Operation equal to 1. If the if the user enters 1, it will come as a string, right? And it will assume that the user is trying to perform an addition. So if operation equal 1, then print the result is integer. So the same thing we'll do is copy. I'll go over this code in a bit. So if operation, the input that the user input is 1, that means that they're trying to perform an addition, right? So we'll add those x and y. If the input that they entered is 2, which means we have to perform a subtraction operation, right? And the same thing with the multiplication. Here, instead of plus, we'll just type in star. It multiplies x with y. And then the same thing for division. Let's give it a try and see. I'll go over those 3, 2. Okay, see what it's printing. Press 1 for addition, 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplication, for division. Let me try and add those two numbers, 3 and 2. I should be expecting 5. So what happened in here is when I pressed 1, it entered to this operation, to this statement, because the input that I entered was 1, right? So that's why it's printing result is, and then comma, it's performing the x plus y. Now it's performing the correct x plus y is because earlier we directly converted the input into integer, so we don't have to worry about converting them in here. Let's give it a try with the 3, 2, and then let's choose to subtraction. 3 minus 2 is expected to be 1, right? Let's do less number 3 and then 2. Expected number is 2 because 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And the same way 2, 3, and then multiplication 3, 6. So this is the most basic calculator. Okay, now in this program, it's entering either of these, right? Because we're typing either 1, 2, 3, 4. What if the user types something else other than 1, 2, 3, 4? Because in our program, only these 4 numbers are recognized, right? If the user accidentally puts like a letter or a number 9, the program should be able to tell what is wrong, right? So in that case, we'll implement an else statement and we'll print invalid operation was selected. Okay, so let's give that a try. Enter x3, enter y4. Let me just enter 9. Do you see I entered 9 and I'm not comparing an operation to a 9 at all. I don't have the 9 logic in here. So that means that although they asked me to enter 1, 2, 3, or 4, I entered the completely wrong number. So then it's telling me, hey, you entered the wrong invalid operation, which means we cannot, like, it's ignoring all these if and else if statements, and it's jumping into the else directly. Okay, let's see. I'll give a minute for you guys to finish up writing.
Can you show us the second question again?
The second question?
Yeah, exercise G.
Oh, yeah,
Question.
1 second. It's here. Instead. So this is the most basic one, which means we kind of made it more intermediate one. This just adds to, um, when y is 2 and then the z is 12, find the x, which means we'll do 12 minus 2, right? It's a basic one, but instead of this one, we made it more complicated and more complex one so that, we don't have to hard code any y or z numbers. Instead, we ask the user to put whatever operation they want and the numbers they want.
Thank you. I just wanted to write down that question
Yeah,
because
no problem. Let's move to the third question. It's a logic question. So let's say we have the variable name. Okay, I'm muted. Yeah. We have the variable name first name that's assigned Doe, and then the last name is assigned as John, right? So we know that first name should be John and then the last name should be Doe, right? So what I want you to think about is how to replace values so that the first name is John and then the last name is Doe. So for example, the very first one, when we have the first name as Doe and then the last name as John, and then we print those, right? It will have the output of first name is Doe and last name is John. Now I want you to change those without changing this first name, you know, I want you to change so that the first name becomes John and then the last name becomes Doe. It's a logic question. And I will give you guys a minute to think about how we could write this, and then we'll jump into the um, solution of that. I know you can just reassign it like first name equal John, last name, but I wanted to, without reassigning those, right, to it with the hard coding, right? I want you to utilize the same variables to switch those names in between. And it might be a tricky question, which if you cannot get that, it's fine. We'll discuss the solution shortly. That's a good guess. Okay, let's see. Mm, yeah, I mean your guesses are correct. Okay, so I think we can just get back to the solution. Your guesses are almost correct, but there is a slightly different way. Um, Smita, yes, exactly. Use a third variable. Yep, you're right. So we're going to use a third variable. We can call it a temporary variable. So let's see. I can probably delete this code, or I can keep this in case you guys want. Okay, so let's say first name equal to Doe, right? And then the last name equal to John. What we want to do is we want the John to come to the first name and the Doe come to the last name. Of course, we can print just, you know, um, um, initially, let's just print first name. First name, and then this. First name Doe, last name John. What I want to do is print so that first name becomes John and last name becomes Doe, right? And so what we could do is just to replace, right? It's the simplest answer, but there is a more logic correct way of doing this. So see. So first name John, last name Doe. It got fixed, right? But this is not the efficient way of doing that. What we can do is we can create a third variable called temp variable. Okay, and for the temp variable, we will assign, let's say, temp equal to first name. Okay, so we are creating a variable that is equal to first name, that is equal to Doe, right? Which means this Doe will be stored in the temporary variable. And then we will do first name equal to last name, which means now first name was Doe before, right? Now instead of Doe, we're making it equal to John. Okay, first name equal to last name. And then when we come to the last name, it still stores the John value, right? We didn't remove it. We just made the first name equal to John, but the last name is still John. So in order to reassign this to something else, we will reassign it to the temp value that we had before. So what's happening here is I created a variable, temporary variable, that I'm retrieving the Doe value. So this one will have the Doe value, right? And now the first name was Doe before, and it's still Doe, but in here I'm assigning the last name to it, which means John, right? So this one will be John. And then the last name is John, right? Still, but we want to change that to Doe. I'm not gonna make it equal to first name because we already assigned the first name to a last name, which means the first name is now John. If we do last name equal to first name, it's again going to end up being John. So that's why instead of assigning it to first name, we're going to assign it to a temp that contains, that contains the value Doe. So let's print this. Okay. So when you want to exchange the values in between, it's necessary to create a third variable to keep it as a temporary variable so that we can assign it later on. I hope that makes sense. So this was the logic question. We'll give you a minute to digest that. Okay, while others are looking at it, I think someone had a hard time. Maybe I did not explain myself clearly. So let's say first name is Doe and last name is John, right? We created a new variable that we are assigning the first name to. So what was first name first? It was Doe, right? So this temp variable will contain the value Doe, right? So this temp variable will contain the value Doe. We write it on top here so it makes sense. And now the next. First name is still Doe, right? We didn't change it. We just retrieved the value from it. Now, next, what we're doing is first name equal to last name. What was last name? Well, I mean, what is last name? It's John, right? So if we make the first name, which was Doe before, equal to last name, the Doe will be changed with John, right? So the first name will now become John because we're making it equal to last name, this one. And then now last name is still John, right? But we want that to be Doe because we switch the John to first name and we want the Doe to come here. Now, where is that value Doe? the first name is already equal to John. We cannot just assign it to first name here, right? Because the first name already contains John because we reassigned it here, right? So if we, before doing this temp thing, if we were to do first name equal to John, we would lose the reference to Doe at all completely. So that's why, not to lose the Doe, we had to assign it to a temporary variable so we can access it later. So that's why, since we have in the temp variable Doe, we are just assigning that last name to the temp. And I can real quick show you like a more clear explanation. Let's say we have the box of, I don't know, flour, right? And then we have another box that has water. Now, to switch these containers, so that this contains water, this contains flour, what would you do, right? You can't just mix and match. You'll get another container, you'll pour the water here, right? And this will become empty. And then you will, once you pour the water to here, this one will have the water, right? This container will have the water. And then you will pour the flour into the container that we poured out the water from. And now this is empty, right? Since this is empty, we will bring this container, the contents from this container into this container. Now this one will have water and this one will have flour. I hope this makes sense. So it's a kind of, you can imagine it from the real time. Okay, so I think it's more than clear. Let's see what's our next. I think the next thing is like it's getting more complicated. The next thing is a currency conversion. So we'll write a code that converts American dollars to Canadian dollars and vice versa, from Canadian to American and American to Canadian. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to think about how we would do that. And then we'll jump into the solution because it's a little bit more complicated. We'll do that together, but I'll give you a minute to see how we could work that out. Okay, let's jump into the solution. Can anyone text? Okay, actually, never mind. It's gonna take a long time if we'll start getting answers. So we'll just jump into the solution. So when you are converting a currency from one currency to another currency, you have to check it online, right? What's the current conversion rate? So since we're converting the American dollars to Canadian or vice versa, let's check Canadian dollar conversion, or just say convert Can dollar to USA dollar. Okay, so 1 Canadian dollar is 0.72 whatever. We can just keep it simple and make it 0.72. So let's come here and do let's declare a variable that we're saying conversion value equal to 0.72. This will be the key for us when we're doing the calculation. Okay, and then so first thing, since we're doing both ways, either from American to Canadian and from Canadian to American, we'll write two separate functions that will convert from American to dollar, and another function from Canadian to American and vice versa. So let's create a function. The way we create function, so earlier in the JavaScript, we were doing function and then we were giving a name and then open parenthesis, right? It's a little bit different, the syntax in Python. So instead of writing a function, we write def, meaning we're just defining a function. Def, and then when you type in the function name, let's say convert can, meaning we're going to convert the Canadian to American dollars, right? So we're defining a function, and how do we know that this is a function? We're going to add the opening and closing parentheses. This will tell you that we're defining a function, because function always has the opening and closing parentheses. And just like we were doing with the if-else statements, we have to include the colon. So this, now we define the function and we have to go inside that function to do the conversions stuff, right? So now let's ask the user how much Canadian dollar they want to convert. We'll do input. How much can dollar would you like to convert? And then they will put an input. Let's save it in a variable. Can dollar input. Well, now and then we can convert it to integer right here, or we can just do it on the next line. So what we want to do next is let's do converted value. So this is where we're doing the actual calculation, right? What we're going to do is if if 1 Canadian dollar is equal to $0.72 of American dollars, what we have to do is we have to get this value, right? Zero conversion value, and get this value, the value that the user inputted, and multiply those together. So, okay, converted value. What we're going to do is we just do can dollar input times conversion value, right? Now, this is going to give us an error, and I'll tell you why it's going to give us an error. Let's print amount, the total amount to converted value. Okay. And now let's call this function. And this is going to throw an error, and I actually specifically wanted to throw an error so I can explain you and teach you how to, debug the code. So how much Canadian dollar would you like to convert? Let's just say 5 here. Okay, so okay, the first thing, cannot multiply sequence by non-int of type float. So you can understand from it, well, what's happening in here. So the first issue we're doing is wrong is that the Canadian dollar input we're getting from the user is a string, right? The first things first is we have to make this an integer. Like I said before, you could convert it to an integer here, but you can also convert it in here. Does not matter. So integer Canadian dollar input, we're getting the input from the customer with the integer and multiplying by the conversion value. Let's run this, and I believe this will throw an error too. 3.5. Okay, I didn't throw an error. So one thing I think it will be best beneficial is because I declared the conversion value in the line 31, right, which is outside of the function. Sometimes your function will bark at you saying that, hey, conversion value, I cannot find it. And sometimes it bars it because it's outside of the function. So it's a good practice to make the conversion value a global variable, because then anything can access this, because we're making the conversion value globally throughout the program. So that's some addition that I would want to add. So okay, does it make sense? The amount that we entered is 5 times 0.72. I believe it's equal to this. Okay, yeah, I think it's correct. So now when you go to a conversion places and you want to convert $5, they're not going to give you 3.599996, right? They will give you, let's say, 3.60 or something like that, right? So to do that, we can round the converted value. So okay, print amount, we can just directly round the converted value right in here. And the way we do that is we use the round function, right? So we have the converted value and we are surrounding it in the round function that's built into Python. And then now you will do if we do round converted value and run this one, 3, oh sorry, it was 5, right? I think, yeah. So without the round, let's just see what 5 gives us. It's giving 3.59999, right? And now that I entered round, it's rounding it up to 4, right? But that's too much of rounding. We want to keep it to the last 2 decimal points. If you do, after converted value inside the round function, if you do comma 2, then it will do 3.6 because it was 3.59999, right? And it rounded to the last 2 decimal points. Now, this is a function for converting Canadian to American dollars. Let's do the vice versa. Let's copy the whole thing and paste it in here, and then do Canadian dollar input, USA dollar input. How much would you like to convert? Converted value equal to USA, and instead of doing multiplication, we're going to do a division. Right? Does that make sense? That's how the conversion works mathematically. And the same thing, we're going to print a rounded number up to the last two decimal points. So let's see if we can do, let's add a additional so that we know which value it is. This one is USA dollars. Oh, sorry, this Indian dollars. And we change the function names because we cannot have identical function names. This is Canadian dollars. This is USA dollars. And let's call this function too. How much Canadian dollar would you like to convert? Five. So 5 Canadian dollar is equal to 3.6 USA dollar. And now it's asking us the second function because we're calling it here, right? How much USA dollar would you like to convert? Let's just do 5 too. So 5 US dollars is equal to 6.94 Canadian dollars. So this is how the, there are a lot of online programs that calculates the conversion for you, not only from American to US or from from US to Canada or Canada to US, but all the other conversions, right? But this is how the program was written to convert the values. Let me give you guys a minute to digest this through. And wish there was a way to, okay, yeah. And then we can bring some changes to this code to make it more, professional.
You declare the conversion value as a global to use that to define the value on the top first, and then use it into different
Yeah.
different functions below. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I tested both of the ways. Well, your ways and my ways. Just so I'm just checking. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
No,
sometimes
we don't
it,
have to. We don't have to because in this cases we need to. No, it does not save the coding lines. So yeah, that's actually why I was asking whether we define the conversion value in each of the functions, or just define it on the top and then use that as a global in each of the functions. Does not save any of the coding lines, but it makes good sense. Well, in case that we are gonna use that value in more than two functions, then make good sense. Thank you.
yes, yeah. Okay, let's continue. So I want to add some changes to this one because this program, what it is doing is it's converting both ways, right? But what if the user doesn't want to? What if the user only wants to convert from Canadian to US or the other way? Um, to do that, we can create another variable called choice, and then ask the user to see if which currency would you like to convert, right? But in this case, we only have US or Canadian, so they have only two options. So maybe let me just copy the text from here, what I wrote earlier. Which currency would you like to convert? And then the next line, press 1 for Canadian and press 2 for USA, right? So so in this case, we'll so we will prompt the user to enter either 1 or 2, right? So we'll compare. So we'll implement the if statement in here as well. If the choice equal string 1, right? 1 is Canadian. So that means we need to do convert Canadian dollars, right? And then else if choice is equal to 2, we will call the convert USA function. Else, again, let's just print invalid selection. So in this case, the program is not going to run the convert Canadian dollar, convert USA function altogether. It will run based on what I want, right? So there's one, okay, let me see, Canadian dollar. Yeah, I think it looks good. Which currency would you like to convert? Press 1 for Canadian, press 2 for USA. So I want to convert Canadian. How much Canadian would you like to convert? 5. Amount is 3.6 USA. And let's run the other one, 2, 6. How much dollars in US? And the amount is 8.33 Canadian dollars. So this is the way to do if you want to give a choice to the users. I'll give you guys a minute. Okay. Okay, I can leave this stuff. I think you guys have it access. Will have access to the recording, right? So I don't think there's a need for me to leave this code on the chat. So there's one last exercise that I really wanted to go through, but I think we're running out of time. But I will go through that real quick. This is more of a real-time project. I don't know if you guys ever, okay, I'll leave it on chat. Give me 1 second. yeah, I will leave it after this one. So this is more of a real-time project. I don't know if you guys, ever receive an email saying that, hey, you have been given access to whatever, blah, blah, blah. Your temporary code is whatever code, and then your access starts on this date, and then you have this much days left until your access gets revoked. So similar to this kind of email, sometimes you receive when you subscribe to some kind of membership, right? Or like they send you a 6-digit number to like for some verification purposes, right? And so those numbers always are different, right? And because in Python those numbers are randomized, and for that I'm just gonna copy and paste where the solution that I wrote for that, so we can make it on time. um, Okay, so what I'm doing is in this assignment, right? It requires it requires importing some of the stuff, because if you check the assignment that I was the exercise, right? We are using some dates, right? And so to use those dates, we need to have the date time package imported, because we cannot just hard code it, right? Okay, let's say today it's 3/11/2023, right? Maybe tomorrow it will be 3/12, right? And if you hard code it as 3/11/2023, tomorrow if it's going to still show 3/11/2023. So that's why it's not a good idea to hard code stuff, and that's why it's important to use the packages that there are in the Python. And also I'm using a package that will randomize 6-digit number. So let me go through real quick on what every line is doing. So what I'm doing is um, here I'm declaring a name John, right? It can be either by input, or you can just hard code it. I think it would be better if you just make it as an input. So once you press the input, then it will give you the email based on your name, right? So just now, let's keep it for John. And then I'm making the time. I'm specifying the PST time zone. So right now, uh, I'm in a PST time zone, right? Let's say if I was in a different time zone completely outside of the country, the time would be 3/12/2023. The date 3/12. It's the next day already. So that's why I'm declaring first a time zone, which time zone I'm on, right? And then I'm doing subscription, start subscription and end subscription, which tells me, hey, your subscription is starting at this time and your subscription will end at this time, only 5 days. Here, to use the date time, to to get the current date, we use the datetime.now function that's built into Python, that's coming from the datetime package that I imported. That gives the current date and time. And for this one, end subscription, I'm still getting current time, but then I'm adding 5 more days. So if start subscription was today, for example, it's 3/11/2023 at 2:27 p.m., right? This time delta that I imported from datetime package and making it equal to days equal to 5, what it will do is it will add 5 days to the current date. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 or 16. So the end subscription will be on 16th. And then there comes the random number, right? So I'm declaring a variable, making it equal to I'm trying to randomize the number, and I want specifically 6 digit. I don't want 2 digit, 1 digit, or 10 digit. I want it to be 6 digits. So let me remove this and make it 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so rand int is coming from rand int from it's coming from the random package, and in here I'm specifying how many digits I want in the randomized number. Right here, if you see, the start number has 6 digits, right, and the end number has 6 digits. So what it means that the program will randomly pick any number that's between these two numbers. So 1 million is 6 digit number, right? And 9 million, whatever, is also 6 digit number. So the numbers in between those two numbers will always have 6 digit. So that's why when when you're using a random package, you have, and you want a specific number with certain digits inside it, right? You have to specify those in here. Let me run this, and I'll copy and paste this code on the chat so you guys can run it on your end and run through that. So now it says, hello, John, you've been given access to whatever text that I put here, right? And then says your temporary code is 586474. So now if I run this again, that randomized code will change, 863338. That's why if you want to keep the code different all the time, you need to randomize it. And then, it prints the start date, and then you have 5 days until your access gets revoked. So this is a kind of a real-time project that's good to know. That you can play around with. Okay, I think we're right on time. I will hand it off to Yasmin, and I will paste these codes on the chat, unless you guys have any questions.
Is there a library that does that particular conversion for you, or?
The currency conversion?
Yes.
I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe there is, but yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know.
Not a problem.
Maybe there is, yeah. Yasmin, I think
Great.
we're, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Gazelle. Hi, everyone. I'm back here. I just wanted to, Martin, who actually lives in Chicago, was not able to join on the Saturday. So he had some conflict. And so he recorded a career support part for all of you to watch. So I'm going to share my screen and just put that recording on for you. And then after that, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, Gazelle, and we can help you. So that's it. Give me one second before I have so many windows open for some reason. Where did my window go? Okay. Second here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, please tell me if you can see it. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. Are you not seeing my? Oh, I am so sorry. Are you not seeing my the video that I was sharing so far?
No, ma'am, we see you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Looks like I wish somebody had told me. Okay, now do you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me restart here. Sorry about that. I think we're back to Zoom days where we used to do this. And do let me know if you're able to hear the audio as well.
No audio.
Do you hear the audio?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, hang on 1 second here. Just to do this. Okay. Oh, I know what. Okay. Okay. It should work now. Please tell me if you're able to hear Coach Murray.
Hey, everybody. My name is Martin McGovern,
You
Good.
Coach
hear?
Marty for short, and I am your student success
Are you able to hear him?
Yes.
Okay.
career coach at Skillspire. Now, what is career coaching? Career coaching is a collaborative process where you and I work together to address the strategic, tactical, and emotional aspects of the job search so that you can break into the tech world with confidence. The job search is a tough process. It involves a lot of different elements, a lot of communication, and the ability to sell your skills to a company so that they want to hire you. So, how do we do that? Well, when it comes to career coaching, we can break it down into a few different areas. The first piece is figuring out where you're coming from and where you're going in your career. This is the strategy. In the strategy part, what we want to do is take a look backwards. What are the skills you've developed up to this point in your career? Could be communication skills, collaboration skills, any number of things that you've done in previous jobs that have set you up for success in the future. We want to take those skills and we want to build upon them. We want to communicate them to companies in a way that really resonates, that makes them go, oh, I see how that translates into what we're trying to do, and makes them want to bring you onto the team in order to help. By doing this, we can set a really strong foundation for you to take a look at the future of your career and plan things out for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Now, once you know your strategy, once you know where you're coming from, where you're going, and the value that you bring to these companies, then we want to start putting together your tactics, your job search materials. This includes your resume, cover letter, your interviewing skills, your networking skills, your ability to negotiate effectively so you can make as much money as possible in these roles. When we're doing your tactics, we're going to be really helping you out by giving you templates to use, working one-on-one, getting into your resume and doing mock interviews, and really helping you hone your communication skills. Because at the end of the day, how you communicate your value is the most important thing to finding a job. Companies are not going to be able to assume what it is that you can do, so they need to be able to talk to you and hear how your skills solve their problems. And that's really the key as to what we're getting at in the coaching space. We're trying to help you shift your mindset away from a self-focused job search into a value-focused job search, where you stop thinking about what you need and you start thinking about how your skills help the companies that you want to work for. And this brings in some sales and marketing communications things that will help you, some skills that will help you develop so that you can confidently go out into the job search, confidently go on an interview, and tell stories that answer the questions that showcase your value to these potential employers. At the end of the day, it's a value exchange, and we want to help you get there. So we've got your strategy. We know where you're coming from. We know where you're going. We understand your value, and we can communicate that to the employers that you're trying to work with. The other piece of the job search that we'll address are all of the blockers that come up as we try to do these things. Rejection is a common thing in the job search, and it can get people down. We can also run into imposter syndrome and burnout and a number of different things that happen as we're trying to put ourselves out there and really showcase this value to the companies that we're working with. So how do you manage the emotional roller coaster of the job search? How do you make sure that you're not just communicating what you need and what you bring to a company, but you're also doing it in a way that is sustainable over time? We need to be able to pace ourselves throughout this process. How do you practice self-care? How do you take time for yourself? How do you make sure that you're not going to burn out? And how do you overcome those thoughts of imposter syndrome? Because the truth is that you probably do have the skills to do the job, but it's communicating those skills that's difficult. So when we get down to it, coaching is a process. It's a collaborative process where we help you understand your strategy, your value, your tactics, and overcome any blockers that you come across throughout the job search process. Now, how do we do that at SkillSpire? Well, there's a few ways that we'll work together throughout the program. Number one, while you're in class, we'll be checking in here and there to make sure that everything is going well, that you're on track, and that you're prepared for what's going to happen after graduation when you start applying for jobs. Then we will get your materials up to date, your resume, and all the different aspects, and help you find internships and jobs that will get you started in the tech field. The other thing we'll do is we'll have group office hours, group coaching and office hours, where you can collaborate with other students, ask questions, and come together as a community to troubleshoot your job search. We have all sorts of different resources at SkillSpire where we're going to be helping you build your career and get things started in the tech space as you make this transition. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we're here to help. Thank you for your time today, and I'll hand it back to the rest of the team. But you're also doing it in a way that is sustainable over time. We need to be able to pace ourselves throughout this process. How do you practice self-care?
Okay. Any questions? Was that audio clear? Was everybody able to hear? Okay, awesome. Awesome. So Martin actually comes to us with quite a bit of experience in this career support field. He even has his own practice called Career Therapy, where he's been helping people for a long time, and has worked with several other coding boot camps as well. So we're very lucky to have him. So he's a great resource for us and for you, especially. So Gazelle, you still there? Still? So any questions for me or Gazelle or anything general that you want to know? Yes, all of the information is actually on our Nitu. Everything is on our website, skillspire.net. So you can definitely take a look at our website and get, all of the information. But if you want me to just tell you a little bit about the course, the full stack web development course is $6,500 if you do a one-time payment. If you choose the monthly payment plan, it does go up $500, but that's paid over 6 months. So your approximate monthly payment plan would be somewhere around 1,166. Other than that, we also work on a sliding scale with students. So if you have certain budget that you're working with and say that, hey, I can work only within that budget every month, we could definitely work that with you, but you just have to come up and ask us. How long on average does it take for an applicant to find a job after completing boot camps? That's a really good question, and it really depends on what you bring to the table, meaning what skills do you have? Are you starting with some basic coding knowledge? Are you starting a complete newbie, or are you starting, as a proficient coder? So all those things play a huge role. And also, what job are you, I mean, what course are you looking? What transcript skills do you bring to the table? So what we've seen is anywhere from, I would say we've actually had a person who had a little bit of basic, I mean, he was, I would say, a beginner to intermediate coder. He went through our program, and before he graduated, he was actually able to find a job. And then I've seen 3 months, I've seen 5 months, I've seen a year. So it all depends typically. Any other questions? Feel free to put it on the chat or just unmute and ask. It's just so much easier to just say it out loud. I'm sure a lot of people have various questions. How long does the career support last after completing the course? As much as you need it. We've had people actually who come back, um, say for instance, they worked with us for maybe 2 months and then they just, disappear. And then they come back after, say, 6 months. And we've done that. So we're always open to helping you. It's up to you to take advantage of it. And I want you to keep this in mind that, think of us as your community of people, your network, your resource place, where even if you're in a job and even if you're started as a junior software engineer somewhere and you are looking for help, reach out to us. We have a network of companies that we work with. We have a lot of instructors, who are software engineers. And if you're stuck somewhere, we would love to help you. So it doesn't, I mean, we don't have a strict timeline as to, we work only for 3 months or 2 months or 5 months. We would love to help you. And, we're all about, empowering people to their next stage in life. So that's why we're here. So I'll just say one thing that, I think I briefly mentioned this before, that you do have a lot of choices. Why would I want to choose you, or why would I want to go through a boot camp? There's Udemy, there's all sorts of free resources, and that might perfectly work for you. Some people need the structure, some people need the, one-on-one coaching, they need the hand holding, they need a little extra help. If that's you, then I think we're the best boot camp for that, and we would love to help you, get you to that next stage. Any other question? So just to get an idea, I mean, we started out with almost 66 people, and I think we're about, I would say roughly 30 plus, which is great. I mean, I think this itself is a big thing that, more than 50% have stayed. By show of hands, um, if you're able to tell me that, yes, I'm interested in doing a boot camp, I would love to take your offer on the free week trial, the first free week trial. How many people would be interested in that? And as you're thinking about it, are the courses always starting at 5 p.m.? Yes. All of our instructors, as I mentioned, work 9 to 5. And once they finish their job, then they jump onto this thing and teach. So it's typically 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. So how many would love to try the free week? You heard Gazelle. She's extremely patient, and imagine working with her for the next 4 months, and she's going to be your mentor. Awesome. Thank you, Neetu. So what you need to do, um, yeah, I understand, Ashley, timings might be an issue. Um, yeah, evenings if you're not able to. Yes, hi, Smita. Awesome. So for people who want to try, please go onto our website, skillspire.net, and submit an application, and do mention in there that you want to try the first week free, and we'll get you set up. Smita, you had a question? Or maybe that was a mistake. So also wanted to mention that down the road, we are planning, probably in another couple of months, we will be offering project-based courses. So say you're a proficient coder and you're looking to get into a job and you want to build a portfolio worth project, then that would be something that you would be interested in. It's a project-based course. It's an entire month. You will have a mentor that you would be working with, and he'll be like your team lead in a company. So you'll have we are mimicking a work environment basically. So you'll have deliverables, you'll be working as a team, and you'll be given a big project, and you'll be building this for the entire 1 month, and that you could add to your portfolio. So just be on the lookout for that. Um, we will be rolling that out in a couple of months. That's a project-based course. Okay, I think all of you have been extremely patient and probably attended from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is 6 hours, which is great. We really, really appreciate it. Um, Gazelle, you want to say something, Gazelle, finally?
I just want to say thank you for for attending and for listening. Yeah, I really appreciate your time, guys.
And thank you, Gazelle, for being so patient and going through these things. I know your entire Saturday is, pretty much gone, and we really appreciate it. And we're very fortunate to have you at Skillspire. So if you have any questions, I'm going to leave my phone number here. You can text, you can call, set up a meeting. If you want to follow up, I'll also leave my meeting link on this thing so you can set up a time to meet with me. If you decide that you want to, ask some questions that still have and too shy to ask here, please feel free to, post it here. I'm set up time to talk personally. What would be the prerequisite for the project-based course? Prerequisite would be someone who does know coding. I mean, they've gone through a boot camp or they've done some self-studying and they're ready to build projects. Yes, my LinkedIn. Okay. Absolutely. And Gazelle, feel free to leave your LinkedIn as well if people want to connect.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, so the recording of this, if you do want, please do send a follow-up email and the recording will be sent to you. Looks like Gazelle has a lot of fans. That's lovely. Awesome. Well, I don't want to take any more of your Saturday. Thank you all very much. It was a pleasure hosting this workshop for you. And thank you, Gazelle, again for the wonderful workshop. I'm sure, a lot of people gained a lot of knowledge and they'll come back and be talking to you and me, and feel free to reach out to us. Thank you all. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you.